Hi, we're the Huge Movie Fanatics here, sort of in the spirit of the Star Trek trailers coming out and whatnot.
And also because we should have done this.
We've been meaning to do this for about a year. We are going to do the review of the Star Trek franchise, but we're going to break it up into pieces because there's a lot of movies.
We don't have enough time today to do all of them, but we're going to gosh darn start.
We're going to start. My hope is we get through 3. The first one we are going to start with is Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And let me preface this by saying I'm a huge fan of the original series. I'm a huge fan of Kirk, Spock, McCoy. I love that dynamic. I love all the other characters as well. And so, but I wasn't when I saw this movie. I had
You saw the movie first.
I'd never seen anything Star Trek except for this movie. This was the first experience, and my dad was like, "Don't do it. You're not gonna want to go back in. You're not gonna jump back in." And I was like, "No, I'm gonna go to the video store." And I rented, and thank God I did this because it was one of those 5 for 5 deals. I rented Star Trek 2, and then like Superman, a couple other ones. That was at the time I was getting into Superman, I think, or trying to get into the movies. So I saw. And if I hadn't gotten Star Trek 2, I don't know if I ever would have moved on, because I am not a fan of this movie. I know that there are a specific sect of people in this planet who like this movie. I don't quite understand it. I've seen this movie 4 times now, and oh my god, it is not, and the director's cut is even worse. It is long, tediously long, and there's no reason for it. It's shots that just linger and linger and linger and linger, and that's all good and fine. I mean, you can
fine and good.
You can do that if there's a purpose to it, but the purpose is to show off the model that they made and how amazing it looks.
Epic, yeah. They tried to go ahead.
So you can do that, but there's no okay, you don't give me 20 minutes of establishing the shots of the ship. I know where the ship is. I know what it looks like. I have seen the show. It's cool that it's big and grand now, and it looks so much better than it did on TV. But even still, I don't need to see 20 minutes of that. And the lead up to the ship is something seriously I think my friend and I clocked it, and it was 6 or 7 minutes long. It might even be longer than that.
It might even be long.
I think it's 11 minutes or something like that. It was long. And we were just sitting there, and because my friend and I, we knew how long it was. We had the stopwatch, and this is going back over a year now, so I don't remember how long it was anymore. But we were just sitting there like, oh my god, this is worse. And then I made the mistake. I was like, well, maybe the director's cut. Sometimes director's cuts are shorter, because I have seen that.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, maybe the director was like, wow, what was I thinking? I was being pretentious. I'm going to go back and tweak this. No, it's 19 minutes longer. The things I will say.
Yeah, Jesus.
One other thing, before I move on to, there are 2 other things I really don't like. They didn't get the characterizations right. They didn't seem like their characters.
How did Gene let that fly? I don't understand that.
I'll get to that.
Okay.
There is an
Sounds
explanation.
Like you're just gonna school me, and I'm just gonna.
The characters just don't feel right in the movie. And then the other thing that I didn't like is, it looks kind of cool, and it didn't bother me the first time I watched it. Having watched the TV shows and the subsequent movies, the look of the film is really kind of drab. It has 2 colors. It's gray and beige, and it's at the time I watched it, and it didn't really bother me because I had never seen anything else. But what happened to the bright blue, bright red, bright yellow? And you don't get that in any of the movies until the new Star Trek movie, 2009. You get into for the most part, you don't really get that.
Fine.
But anyway, so I think the color palette is a bit off. It's certainly better than the color palette for number 5, but we'll get to that eventually, hopefully.
Maybe not today.
Probably not today. But I'm going to give this movie a big ol' whopping 1. It's gorgeous,
Wow.
but there are benefits. And the reason why I give it 1 star is because the music is great. The music is gorgeous. My God, he did an amazing job.
Ooh.
It was Jerry Goldsmith, right?
Yeah.
Amazing job with this score. Man, I love it. And then the other thing that I really like is the plot. The plot is phenomenal. It's a great 50-minute episode of the show. And I swear, if you could re-tinker this movie like none other, and it would stand as a really solid 50-minute episode, which is what it was supposed to be. genesis of this movie was it was going to be the pilot episode to Star Trek Phase 2 was the title.
Well, I think
And
there is a original series episode that's a lot like it even.
Yeah, there is.
Go ahead.
But the idea for this, and the reason why the old crew is back for this inaugural release of the ship is they were handing it off to a brand new crew, and this was going to be the pilot episode to the new series that was called Phase 2, and they decided to make it a theatrical release after Star Wars hit. And so Kirk was going to only be there for a couple of episodes and hand it off to this new captain who's like made to be the new captain in the whole movie, and then Kirk is like, take a back seat, bitch, kind of like attitude throughout the movie.
What's the line?
And Chekhov was going to die in the movie, and you still have the scene where he
yeah,
gets
right.
like electrocuted kind of thing and burned. He was supposed to die there.
But luckily she got sprayed by the
Yeah.
that saved his life.
Pretty much, but yeah, I mean, I think that the idea for the movie is cool, and it just, nothing really worked for it. I mean, it was gorgeous, great looking movie, the sets are astonishing, the special effects in the day I'm sure were great, because they're still even impressive now to some extent.
That's exactly right, and they haven't been tinkered.
No, not at all,
especially
and
Star
like,
Wars.
when Spock is going... And that's the other thing. The movie finds ways to slow down.
Yeah.
Spock has the jetpack and he's moving at a like fever pitch. It's out of gas, and then he just gently floats, and it's like, oh my god! It was already going on for 4 minutes. Now he's going on for another 4 minutes, like completely just slowly to the planet, to the core thing, and I don't know. It bothered me. I give it 1 star. Let's hear your review.
Well, you referred to people. I don't know what you called them. Droves of minions. What do you call them?
I said I don't remember.
There are people who are.
Yeah.
You said some kind of word, like a group.
There is. There's a
sect.
niche.
Did you say
a
sect?
Yeah, there's a sect of people.
Well, one of their sect members is right in this room,
Yeah.
and he's sitting right here, and his name is Nate. And part of it, I actually love this movie, and part of it's probably because I grew up with it. You know, that actually plays a huge part. There's no way unless I get hit on the head and amnesia that I can see this movie for the first time as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
I love this movie, and I completely understand people like your complaints, because it isn't. Oh, you said you were going to get to. I was just going to see Gene Roddenberry and how he let.
Well, it's because it was.
Did you do that?
They weren't even supposed to be there. And
Oh, that's what that was.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And then
Okay.
they decided to have Kirk and crew be there to.
Right. And I understand people being interested in the characters, because that's, I mean, it's there in a very, actually it's barely not even there. I mean, Bones is still a little bit the character of Bones, but because Spock he's been away for so long that he's not even necessarily even Spock. He's like just a new person.
You see like rock star Spock in the opening scene with the long hair. And,
That's right.
It's so goofy. I laughed out loud.
One thing I did like about that Spock intro was that introduction I thought was great, that he was just going to take the last step to, this is just noises, I'm whatever, I'm distracted. Yeah, it's a staple gun or something, or nail gun. Take the last step to the Kolinar or whatever the hell it is. And that's when, literally, right when they're going to put the necklace on him, he's like, and that great Jerry Goldsmith, dong. I gotta admit, I like a lot of parts about the movie, but I like that aspect and the fact that we almost lost him. We almost lost Science Officer Spock to the Vulcan Kolinar or whatever, and he was just going to be a monk or whatever the hell he was going to do from then henceforth. That was cool and dramatic in that way. I thought it was kind of good. One thing that I think is really dumb in a way is the woman's like, the Kolinar, and drops the thing, and at the end of the scene, I thought it's kind of dumb. It might even, I think it's still there in the director's cut, which I probably would have hacked away, is when they all walk away, Spock's on his knees and he like picks up the necklace, and he's like, and they cut to San Francisco, like, picking it up is just like, did I make the right choice? I don't know, it's just, it's just kind of B movie-ish. But in general, I like the movie, and like I say, I understand why people who don't, because the characters the characters of Kirk, Spock, and Bones are not really there. But one could argue that since they've been apart for so long, That maybe that's the reason.
Yeah, but in the next movie, they're all the exact same characters.
Well, that's because they've been together for a while.
I suppose. I don't know.
One could argue that because they've been in park for so long that they're unfamiliar with each other, and I make that. I think that's a good point. The one reason why the movie is a pass for me is because I think I understand your point, but I have a point of my own, which is Star Wars happened, and they probably pissed off all the Star Trek people in a lot of ways. Like, oh fuck, we're Star Trek, fuck. And I think a lot of ways, the reason why the movie is so huge, and I do think in a lot of ways, and of course I'm going to like it because I also love 2001: Space Odyssey, and there's a lot of similarities there in the boring, long, drawn-out stuff, which I don't have a problem with, especially as a kid when you like science fiction special effects, and the music is just beautiful during that overly long scene as well. I can understand, I can almost see why they did what they did, where they wanted to make almost Star Trek meets 2001 and just like go completely so epic on and they even have the word motion picture in the title to cement, fuck you Star Wars, Star Trek is going to the big screen in a big way. I think they even got Douglas Trumbull, who was a young guy, part of some of the effects on 2001 as did Spielberg for Close Encounters of the Third Kind, to come in and try to make it look, and like you said, I mean, even now, the special effects untinkered with look great. Yeah. I can't imagine what they looked like back then. I mean, to the audience, I mean, that must have just been like, whoa, they built the thing for real and went in space, I love every I don't know about every aspect, but I love most of the aspects about it. I think the movie is epic in this scope, and the thing that I like, and I can understand again why people don't like, is that this is a thing, and I'm sure because I watched within the last few years there was an episode I'm sure was very similar to this in the original series, but it's a great movie or a great idea, and what I love about the idea is it's so simple, and the great idea of this they sent out this thing, in the 80s or whatever the hell, Voyager, and the idea that, I love that idea, which I think was basically in one of the early episodes, of sending out Voyager and having him, interconnect with alien life or whatever, and the alien, I don't exactly know what happened, the alien took on that thing and made it a personality or gave it a life.
I think it became self-aware.
Did it become it? Yeah, but was it part of an alien help by itself?
No, I think it was by itself.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because it went and it just amassed so much knowledge through.
Yeah, I love that idea.
That it became self-aware.
Well, I love that idea, but and in a lot of ways, what a lot of people do, and it's covered in Prometheus, obviously, of people searching for God, and it's like, I won't say God, I'll say, well, I did, never mind. But the Creator, which is mentioned in the movie, searching for the Creator, or the idea of this thing that we sent out, which is very well could have been where we came from. We've been sent out. Who knows? We sent out, and it comes back, in the future, looking for its creator and destroying all this and that and whatever. It's a simplistic idea, but very, very cool in that aspect. I also love that one idea of when she's actually kind of sexy, and I think she died young. That Persis, that woman, the bald woman, who when I was a kid, when you're a kid, you don't see necessarily, they put off by the baldness when I was a kid, but when you're an adult, you can see the legs too, and the face, and you can see the beauty there. And I like the idea of and what's the whole idea with she's Deltan? What is that? I don't think they ever covered it in any of the episodes.
No.
Like that's supposed to explain they're a sex planet or something like that.
I have no idea.
She's, the way Uhura says it, like she's a slut. She's Deltan, Captain. She screwed everyone on her planet basically, and I have an oath of celibacy or something like that, and it's just like, what is this nympho bald woman? But what they end up doing, where they kill her and have her come back as a robot copy. We're gonna cut this short. I like it, and let's see Matt's reaction.
4 stars.
I'm going to give this movie 4 stars because the ideas behind it and its epic scope is just great. And like I say, it's 2001 meets Star Trek, or that's what they tried to do. And you can tell that they're really trying to best Star Wars. And
yeah, and I think that is probably the problem. Because they're two completely different beasts. Star Wars is very much a fantasy film.
Yeah.
And it always has been. Even the first one is essentially the hero's journey put to film, and it's which is a mythological story.
Don't get me wrong. I'm going to interrupt you right now. I think what they did at the end of the day, what they did with Star Trek: The Motion Picture, was based on the characters and everything that they created in those three seasons of Star Trek, was wrong. I think it was wrong, but I can understand why they did it in a certain way. I still don't know why Roddenberry even let them do it, but the aspect, what I was getting at before, I'm going to quickly say, is the aspect of the movie, which is this thing that's going to destroy the Earth is on its way, and it's like the biggest doom is coming. And the movie has that sense of like urgency and seriousness that the characters would have if the impending, the end of the world, the planet was on the horizon. And that's what I feel, that's why I feel the movie, that's why it gets a pass, because I feel like the drab, humorless tone is absent because what the characters are doing, this mission is so important that there's just no time for humor. And that's why I feel the Star Trek: The Motion Picture drab, boring if you want to say, tone is justified for me.
Yeah, and my problem, as I say, is that it tried to best Star Wars, and
Well, that was a misstep.
well, certainly, yeah, but that's something that shouldn't be ignored either. Like, it tried to best Star Wars.
Oh, you
and-
mean I can't think of the word. Go ahead.
I'm saying that it tried to beat Star Wars when Star Wars was a brand new, fresh thing.
Right.
That nobody had ever seen anything like that was cut that way or anything, and they tried to say, well, look, that's irrelevant. This is true science fiction. And in that, they...
Snobbish.
The whole snobbish nature of it made the movie irrelevant. Because sure, you can make something gorgeous, and you can put strong performances. I even say that like there's a moment here or there, especially between Bones and Kirk, that are well performed. It's just that doesn't make it a good movie. And they even got a really good director. The director of Sound of Music made the movie.
The guy who edited Citizen Kane.
Edited Citizen
Day the
Kane.
Earth Stood Still, the original.
I mean, like you got these powerful things, but at the end of the day, they were just trying to be like, no, my movie's better,
Yeah.
and they made a movie that nobody cared about. And it wasn't until basically franchise over. Enough people, it made enough money because people were like, ooh, a Star Trek movie. It made enough money to grant a sequel, but if were that sequel never to be made, Star Trek would not be talked about today.
Well,
Like,
I don't know about that. I mean, the original series. I
the
think-
original series, I still think, it would have probably fallen by this point. Like, the reason it still has some relevancy is because the characters and stuff went on, but that was because of the movie and the subsequent TV sequels and stuff like that. But, and I say that as a huge fan of the original series, but I think it would have probably fizzled away had it not been for Wrath of Khan. But, so the problem with it was it tried to fight Star Wars, but Star Wars wasn't even the problem. Like, because Star Wars was a fantasy, and it's not saying, like, it wasn't a science fiction, it just took place in space. Whereas Star Trek has always been basically a science fiction
about the
show.
future,
About
yeah.
the future, about where no man has gone before. Let's go, let's explore. Star Wars is basically a very close character study of who am I for Luke Skywalker, and then for Anakin Skywalker. But that's getting way into it. So you have fantasy versus sci-fi, and then the sci-fi is essentially it blends Western and submarine. Like, it's essentially a warship submarine.
Yeah, Star Trek is.
Yeah.
You did that before, I think, where you
Mhm.
compared them with submarine
Yeah,
battle, which
and
it
it's
very
like-
much is.
It's very much cowboy, about the new frontier and stuff like that. So I think it went to a battle with something that was completely different, but they were also advertising it as, look, hey kids, move over, Star Wars, Star Trek is back, and people were like, no it's not, I'll watch the reruns. And that was the problem. It lost itself.
Uh-huh.
But as I say, there are aspects I like, and we also didn't discuss the makeup. I like the makeup of some of the alien beings on the planets. They're so goofy and weird looking.
What are you talking about?
When
Planet
they-
of the original series?
No, they were in the movie. They're when they're on. I guess they're on Earth, right? In the beginning.
Yeah, because they're only on Vulcan and Earth in the whole movie.
Yeah, and then they have the group shot of like an audience, somebody like. I believe would be in San Francisco, right? And then you see the aliens. Sort of,
No,
like,
this is on the Enterprise when they're before they're ready. You mean the briefing showing?
Yeah,
that one
okay, so
ship
is that
being-
on the Enterprise?
That's on the
I've
Enterprise.
seen this movie 4 times, 2 times this year, and I still like. That's how much. My friend, I showed it to my friend for the first time. She'd never seen any of the Star Trek movies, so we're going through and watching them. Currently, we just finished the first 6. She fell asleep over large portions of this movie, and so afterwards we were like, well, we don't even need to ask you what you thought. And she's like, no, I liked it. This is the perfect kind of movie, because she falls asleep during movies all the time. She's like, this is the perfect kind of movie, because this is the one you can fall asleep during large portions of, and still be able to understand what's going on. And I'm like, that's a terrible review. You can sleep during this film. But, yeah.
It isn't very favorable.
No.
But for all its flaws, I think it's got excuses for its flaws, and I go with it.
Alright. 1 star, 4 stars.
Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Star Trek, the single star it gets.
Thanks for watching.